So, Sydney, I'm going to dive in. Just to start, would love to hear about how you're using interactive demos at Athenian and any unique use cases that you're using.
Yeah, absolutely. So maybe I can start off by just introducing myself. I run our product marketing programs at Athennian and have been doing that for the last couple years. And like you said, Natalie, we started with Navattic really early on, and so it's been one of the most important tools in terms of bringing product product qualified leads into our pipeline. Um, and so right now, the way that we use Navattic in a multitude of different ways, but one of the most important ways is we have several different product tours on the front end of our marketing website. So on all of our unique product use case pages. And then I would say probably the most unique way that we've used Navattic is we have like bundled all of those product tours and created a landing page that we call our demo center, which is basically just like a hub for all of our product tours. And we've found a lot of success in this. And just the fact that when someone lands on our site and they visit our demo center, they're able to self-select and kind of identify which product tour they would like to take depending on the role that they're in, or maybe the industry that they're in, or even the specific company that they work for. And so it creates this unique experience for the people who are landing on their website or on our website, and they're able to just explore the platform in whatever way that they find appropriate, depending on what their priorities are for their role.
Awesome. I'm excited to show off that demo center shortly, but I wanted to go back and dive into something you mentioned, which was how it's helped increase product qualified leads. Because I noticed Athenian's mostly sales led, or that you have the book a demo main CTA right now. Were you ever using a free trial and then have used product tours instead? Or was this kind of your guys' first steps or your way of going PLG? Because we hear a lot of customers say, I want to go PLG. I don't necessarily have the resources.
Mhm.
Like, how could I use interactive demos as product qualified leads?
Yeah, absolutely. So we knew that we wanted to do some kind of a free trial, or at least let Athenian speak for itself, just because the platform is very unique in terms of its interface, and just the competitors that are in the space right now. And so we knew that being able to show Athenian, without requiring a sales conversation, was going to be something that would sort of propel us forward in the market. And so we knew we needed a free trial, but the challenge that we were having was, in order for our customers to use Athenian effectively, it requires a data migration of all of the data that could have been it could have been years or even decades of this data storage. And so we didn't want to spend time or any of our engineering or development resources to migrate people over to Athenian so that they could have a free trial. And you know um, we wanted to figure out an easier way to let people sort of navigate through the platform in a way that made sense. And so that's where Navattic came in. We did some research on what kind of other tools are out there, but um, Navattic was just a winner in terms of the features that we needed at the time, and still today. Um, and so that's how we kind of got started. And using Navattic, we're able to basically use all of the um, dummy data that's in our platform, and then just create unique product tours depending on the use case or industry or etc. Using Navattic.
Yeah, I love your point about, there's some setup. We hear that a lot from customers. Like, I mean, we want to use an interactive demo because even if I do have a free trial or something, there's a lot of integration data setup until I get to that end state. I think what you all did so well is that end state is really focused on value. It's not necessarily how do I set this up, but it's getting someone excited that if I buy Athenian, if I do all the work, like this is the beautiful result that I get. So without further ado, would love to show off what the end state looks like and kind of walk through that demo center that you all have built.
Yeah, absolutely. So let me share my screen here. All right. So we have our demo center in like right on the front end of our page. It's in our nav bar. Um, when people click on this link, it takes them to a gate, which is where we use HubSpot, but it's a form to be able to track those leads. And then once they fill that out, they arrive at this page. So at the top here, we have a couple of our featured tours, we call them, which are sort of just like top level, very relevant tours that we think our users might be interested in. So for example, corporate transparency, our demo center gives a little bit of information as to what the tour is going to entail. And then you can click to take the tour. So let me scroll down here. We set this up as well. So what challenge are you facing? We're hoping that this kind of prompts users to think about what their pain points are. And this is helpful to us as well because, in Navattic analytics, we can see which tours have been taken. And that helps us identify, what are the pain points right off the bat that these users are experiencing, and we can come better prepared to the sales conversations just from that information alone. So for example, if I click take the tour, that'll load this specific tour in general. And so we have obviously all of these tours linked to our demo center, and then you get right into Navattic here. So a feature in Navattic we've really liked is we've changed this button to say get started, and so they can click right here and just kind of navigate whichever paths that they feel appropriate. And honestly, most of the time we have people clicking on all of them, so they'll go through the entire tour, and then they'll at the end we have a URL. This will redirect to our demo form. And then just part of our workflow as well that I think is interesting is we have this integrated with Slack. So as soon as someone clicks to book a demo through our product tours, we get immediately notified when that happens. And so it's always fun to see those notifications come in, and I know that they're coming from product tours.
So many follow-up questions. Don't know where to start. I'm going to start with this page because the way that you frame challenges is absolutely brilliant. Because as you said, then the sales team knows, hey, this person raised their hand and said, this is a challenge, not just they were interested in this feature. Curious
Mm-hmm.
how you went about deciding, like, I'm sure there's so many challenges you could show, how you want to decide narrowing it down to these 7 and
Yeah.
prioritizing them, or if it was just kind of obvious, like we talking to the sales team, we know these are the main challenges.
Yeah. So we know, I guess where we kind of started was honestly a lot of trial and error. Like, first of all, identifying what challenges our product can actually solve, of course. And so that's where a lot of this comes in, like managing corporate entities or charts and relationships. Um, and then a lot of it was just kind of seeing where people are going to be clicking. So, for example, managing equity. Um, for the last couple months, and actually maybe even longer than that, we've been targeting private equity and asset management firms. And so we found that when we put this challenge in here, a lot of the folks who we were trying to target were clicking on managing equity and taking that tour. And so that kind of validated our assumptions that, okay, yes, this is a market that we need to be going after. They're clearly interested and they clearly identify this, as a challenge that they're facing. And so once we kind of identified where Athennian can support, and also, what are those market areas that we want to get into, we validated these with the sales team. And at the time, sales was kind of like, yep, that looks good. And just having Navattic, working in the back end and taking a look at our analytics, we've been able to tweak these, this page, but also the tours themselves, just to make sure that people are finishing the entire tour. Because we can see, where are people dropping off, and just kind of like streamline that whole process.
So I've had a few people ask me, how often should I be checking my drop off rates? Like, when should I know how to revise? Do you have a cadence of monthly I go in, I check my drop off and try to make edits? Or is it just kind of every now and then we go in and look and adjust from there?
Yeah, so monthly would be ideal. I think at Athenian we have a lot going on, and so um, aiming for monthly, I think is great, even just a quick check. Um, but also, I think the great thing that the great thing about Navattic is that we can easily make updates. Like we can go into Navattic and just make updates super quickly. And that's worked out really well for Athennian because, like I mentioned before, with asset management and private equity and kind of getting into that different market for us, we when we set up the product tours, we weren't 100% sure if that was even, gonna. That was sort of our best guess at solving the challenges that that market had. And so now that we've identified, okay, people are dropping off here, like they clearly don't care about this feature or whatever, we're able to go in and make those tweaks in Navattic and then go back and check, like, okay, yes, people have continued the tour since we've made that change. And so I think that's really important for us as well. And again, it leads back to having those sales conversations because now sales can be better prepared, but also speak specifically to the workflows in Athenian that most of our prospects have seen a product tour before they even get into the sales funnel, if not all of them. And so sales can just be really prepared in terms of what workflows that person has already seen and just have a much more productive conversation.
Yeah, I love that. I have one more question about the demo center, but also want to just put in the chat. I was just to say, if anyone else has questions, I'm hogging it all up. Um, One from David. Do you have a target length of the tour especially when you're revising, or just however long it takes to show the value?
Yeah, that's a really good question. What I've found is, or what we found is, usually between, I want to say 15 to 20 or 25 steps. It's different when you have, so let me go back to this. It's different when you have these kind of pathways. If you can separate your tour out by pathway, I think that's like incredibly valuable. Not only to us because we can see what people are clicking on and how they're navigating the tour, but also for the user because they know, like, if I'm not interested in learning about e-signature, I don't have to look at that. But what we found is that people will like once they go down one pathway, they'll usually come back and check out the others. So yeah, I would say between 15 to 20 steps. Like I think ideally, at least for our users, like a couple minutes at most. Because then it's almost like, at least for us, we wanted to give enough where they felt like they knew Athenian and they knew how intuitive it is, but not enough so that they still are like, okay, we need a demo of this.
That's such a perfect description. What I've been saying recently is like an appetizer. Like you get excited for the
Yeah,
main meal.
exactly.
It's
Yeah.
a little snack.
Yeah.
Um,
100%.
and that's what our data shows too, as far as length, between 15 and 20 steps. And we've actually seen checklists increase completion by about 17%. I think it's like a mental thing. Like people like
Oh, for
checking things
sure.
off. So that's awesome to see that you have all broken up that way.
Yeah, and the other thing I'll mention too is recently in the last couple of months, we've added the step count in the bottom of each Navattic step, and I think that helps as well. I think that's a mental thing too, is people know, okay, if I'm on step one of like 15, it's much more easier to consume than if it was longer than that. And so I think just giving that information up front is really helpful too.
Yeah, that's a great tip. I think those really help too. Just like you said, mentally, when you're clicking through, like, okay, I don't have 30 more steps. I know that this is limited.
Yeah, for sure.
I, I wanted to go back to the HubSpot part because you mentioned that you're sending anyone who clicks book a demo straight into Slack. How your sales team uses this to pre-call, get a little more information on the prospect, be a little more qualified. Are you doing any like PQL scoring or scoring in HubSpot as far as, I guess, filtering out the leads? Some go straight to sales, maybe some need to be retargeted. I guess it'd probably depend how far they make in the demo, but just curious if you have anything set up in HubSpot like that.
Yeah, for sure. So we do have a scoring program that I don't manage. That's our revenue operations manager. Um, but but yeah, so we score all of our content, like our ebooks, our white papers, our case studies, etc. With and our product tours, obviously using that program. But our demo, like our book a demo, basically is like um, counts the prospect as like ready to talk to sales, obviously. And so what we've found that I think is interesting is, so when a user starts a product tour, they'll get a pretty, I don't know exactly what the score is, but a pretty decently high score because it shows intent that they actually want to dedicate time to look through the platform instead of just, reading an ebook or a case study or a blog post or whatever. But um, I don't know. I also don't know what the exact metrics are in terms of how many users we get, like that start a demo versus completed and fill out our demo form. But when people start a product tour and they fill out a demo form, it's like they're already qualified. Like they're ready to talk to sales at that point. And I think the product tour is a really helpful way to get people into that funnel because they get to explore Athenian on their own time and choose whatever pathway they want. And then they can fill out a demo and they're ready to go. Like they already know that Athenian solves a pain point that they have. They know what to expect in the demo. It's not like they're going into it blindly, not knowing what challenges we solve. Um, and sales is ready to have those conversations just based off of the pathway that the user chooses.
So, one question from the audience here, and I think based off your past answer, my feeling is that it just kind of alerts the sales rep. But Michael was curious, what do you do if someone goes to the product tour who's already in your pipeline? Like, do you change up, I guess, the reach out for them at all? Or is it just more alerting the sales rep, like, hey, someone from your account is going through the demo?
Yeah, absolutely. So, like I mentioned with our integration with Slack, we have a Slack channel for net new prospects who take a product tour, but also existing customers who take a product tour. And
Mm.
I think that's really helpful for our customer success team because they get that notification on Slack as well if they're in that channel, which they are. Um, and they can see, okay, this specific customer, they know who the contact is because it's integrated with HubSpot. They could reach out to that customer literally that day and say, hey, I noticed that you are looking at, this feature in Athenian. Did you need more, support around navigating what that feature looks like for your for that particular use case that they have. But the other thing that kind of maybe will answer Chris's the next question that Chris put in there is it really helps with our customer marketing strategy because whenever we do a quarterly, like right now our product releases are quarterly, so whenever we have a quarterly release, our not only do we create product tours for net new features that our customers can look at, but our customer success managers can share those with their customers, and then we can see all the analytics on our side as well. So, um, it's a really useful tool in ensuring adoption for those customers of those features, and just further enablement for our own internal teams, but our customers as well.
Yeah, I love the idea of not just thinking of sales enablement, but CS enablement. Like, how can we make sure
Yeah.
that if we're trying to get an account to use a new feature, it's like, okay, are they actually learning about it? Because you can kind of look at product analytics. This is a good way to say, like, okay, no, they were really educated.
Yeah, absolutely.
So, I guess last question from me is just for anyone who's maybe newer in the audience or maybe is trying to train a new person on Navattic. Do you have any just like quick tips for any Navattic newbies about building out these demos or refreshing or updating them?
Um, yeah, I think here, let me stop sharing my screen here. I think my biggest tip, which I've said like several times before, I think, is sign up for the Navattic newsletter because there are so many features that are released through that newsletter, and it's just been really helpful for us. Like the second that we think of a feature, like oh, this would be something really useful, I find out that Navattic already has it through the newsletter, so that would be my first step. And there's also features in there that I that we haven't thought of, but we're like, oh, this is actually really valuable, and we'll apply that to our workflows pretty quickly. I think the other thing as well is as if you are starting with Navattic, I think it can be um, kind of well, Navattic itself isn't overwhelming, but the thought of having to put all of these product tours together and go through, every single area of your platform to try to get them all covered. Um, I would say to just kind of like start small and just hit on those key pain points and just continue to build them. Like our product tours have been built over, I guess, the last 2 years now. Um, And so we've just been continuously like, we had a good foundation and now we're kind of building it like story by story. Um, so yeah, I would say just kind of start small. Yeah.
Yeah, I always give the advice. I think people get so excited when they first start out, but it can be really overwhelming the amount of ways you can use interactive demos.
Yeah.
So start by like one use case and nail that. Like as you all did, you created a really great system of updating and knowing the ideal length and using the checklists. And then once you have that down, it's much easier to clone and create it from there than start new.
Oh yeah, absolutely. And we actually, when we first started with Navattic, we started with one like minute long product tour maybe that had no checklist. It was just a very basic overview of Athenian. And then our next one had that checklist. And then we started to put in Jason, I can see your comment as well with, following up with a case study related to each pain point. The other thing, which is just another idea that we did on those first few product tours, was halfway through the product tour, we would like put in a little box that just said, um, check out this, like our recent case study. Did you know that Athenian saved whatever X% of time? Check it out, and put in a button that just um, opens a new tab with that case study download. And then there was another button that just said continue product tour. So that's another way, like an interesting way to capture people's attention. Um, and then just have them continue with the product tour.
Yeah, that's so interesting as far as we usually see people putting like a book a demo in the middle, but kind of giving them options,
Mm-hmm.
making sure that they could also learn more about a case study and kind of surprises them. It's not just the same thing.
Right. Yeah, absolutely. And I think people, they go into a product tour being like, okay, when's the demo form going to come? When's sales going to be emailing me? Like it is kind of intimidating in that way. Like, so I think giving a piece of content instead of a book a demo form up front is kind of refreshing because, we're not pressuring them to book a demo, but at the end of the day, they end up doing it anyway, just because they're like, you know, as long as, they love the platform and it's a good fit for them.
Yeah, yeah, I like it. I think the whole point, as you've talked about this theme constantly, is product tours or should be used to really nurture and warm them up. Like, and so hopefully
Yeah.
by the end, if you did that successfully, they should want to book a demo and be excited. So I love between the checklist, the case studies, all those different ways you use to warm them up and get them to know a little bit more about your product.